Welcome to episode 1 of Anything Less is Everything Less. You know, on my social platforms, there's a level of depth that we can go where it will resonate with you. These conversations go deeper. I had to write everything down because I didn't want to hit exactly what this podcast, these conversations are about. I was sitting outside by the pool. I burned myself, so I had to position myself to have sun on this side, right? And just sitting out there, listening to nature, thinking. What do I have to share with anyone? And it is, you are the creator of your life. And when you realize that what you think of who you think you are is all by programming, and you've never actually asked yourself and gone deeper. So these conversations aren't for everybody. It's going to shift your paradigm. It's going to shift your identity. It's going to shift who you think you are. And that's what it's all about. See, I'm 52. And I never thought I'd make it. Really, I never thought I'd make it into my late 20s. And then in my late 30s, was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And so what I realize now is that how we think about our life is how we think about it. So if we want a beautiful life, then everything about our habits and patterns must support that. So everything you speak is a spell that you hear, because the thing you hear is the thing that you believe. That was the paradigm shift for me. And that started in 2019. It led to my divorce of 21 years from someone we were coexisting. And I deserved to be happy. I would look in the mirror and say, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This is not my life. This is not my life. When I envisioned my life, this was not it. I was grossly overweight, unhappy. I look at the pictures, my skin was sallow, I was round, I was on prednisone, I was angry, I was unhappy, I couldn't speak. And when I spoke, I was angry, I was resentful, I was bitter. I didn't know what the hell I was bitter and angry and resentful for. But, this man I had chosen, he's there, the kids are there. You see, this is not conversations for people who still want to make excuses for their parents, for their here and for their that, and they're this and they're that, and you just want to be angry and point the finger at everybody else. This is not conversations for you, because you aren't here. Because when you're pointing the finger at everybody else, that finger comes back at you. This is your life. This is your version of life. This is you in the journey of your life from birth to whenever it ends for you. And that it makes you angry that the people you have chosen don't see the world the way that you do. And so you accept less. And that one thing dictates everything to less. So, if you are not ready yet to live fully in your life, the rest of this episode is not for you. Because I thought long and hard about this first episode. But this isn't just for the people who still want to sit in anger and be victim and still say that everybody else is manipulating them. You put a label on everybody. They're a narcissist, they're an avoidant, they're a here and they're a this and they're. They are who they are, just as you are who you are. So again, stop worrying about everybody else. And what is your truth? Who are you? So I had to write these things down because I didn't want to forget. So it may feel a bit disjointed. I'm hoping I made this right to myself. But you must state your truths out loud to yourself. You must say the things that you know and have shame for. Speak it and release the power you have given it to shape who you now get to be. You see, we could say, my husband, he's a son of a bitch. He's a narcissist. He's a this. He destroyed me. He may very well be. But who are you? That's the part that you have to answer so that it's not about everybody else. Yes, indeed, these people are as exactly as you call them. That's exactly how they are. They will tell you that. They will show you that. But you ignore what you see because you've already created a fantasy and that's all you want to see. And so this is all you will see to the detriment of yourself, because what you see, you don't want to see. I had to be honest with myself. I was with my ex-husband here, the recent one. Met him on the 19th or 20th or 21st, 19th or 20th anniversary of my other marriage. That was our first date. And by July, we had gone to the desert. And I knew something was off with him. Vibrationally. I stayed because this, let me write it down. First of all, I'm going to say it for real. That's fucking best penetration. Like, the best. And I put up with it longer than I would have because the energy of our Kundalini was cosmic. And additionally, I wrote, from July 2021, I knew there was something odd in our vibration. And I was also just waking up to the love affair with myself. So two roads collided. For me right then, because you've got to be honest with yourself, because it's not them. They are who they are. Yes, he may be a cheating motherfucker and you know it and you stay. So why do you stay? Right? Why do you stay? Because it's not them we're trying to fix. There's not them we need to look at. We can't, there's no control that I have over another human. Raising children, raising little humans to become larger humans told me that they are their own personality, literally from birth. And same way, parents will try to nurture and or manipulate our children to be what we want them to be. And that looks however it looks. But we often do the same thing in our relationship, and it's not about fixing them. It's about looking in the mirror and asking yourself, if they are these things, why did you stay? Why did you put up with it? And if you're not willing to speak it, you have to say out loud, I stayed with them because the dick. I stayed with him. I was able to get this dream studio. He is more liquid than I. I had to look at my place in my life as a Black woman in this world and release all of the heaviness attached to being that, because racist. We can keep saying, oh, the oppressed can't be the oppressor, but by definition, that definition doesn't sit with me. And I said, well, I don't accept that definition. Historically, systematically, yes. But if I accept that I am oppressed, that's another layer of oppression that I am signing on to. And you know what? I'm letting it all go, because what if I could just be that same feeling I can clearly remember of laying out in the grass in my backyard, getting a little itchy from the grass and laying on the grass and watching the clouds float by. And then hearing my mother say, get from out from under the sun before you get too black. So I had to address my racism. I had to address my misogyny. I was a stripper, for God's sake. But in fact, that stripping was the injection of empowerment that I had never actually seen before. Because I arrived there because I had been harassed at other jobs for way less money. So you mean to tell me I can come here, wear comfortable clothing? Really? Really harass the men? Bet. And I have spent this up until just recently feeling shamed for this. Now come to find out they're called sex workers. Women are on OnlyFans, and Jesus Christ, I could have made a lot more money. I had to look at whether I was envious of the people in my life. And there were occasions, many people thought I was, because I was, I was the Pilates instructor of a billionaire family. Spent a lot of time with them, as those families have you do, because they are self-insulated. And so generally the help becomes the friends. Because historically you are just hearing, because you're there. They pay you to be there. And when I realized that transactionality of it, then of course my price went up. Now I had to address those things in me that said, oh, that's awful. No, that's not awful. That's transactional. And that's just like, so every relationship is transactional. Let the truth be true without resistance. We want to put, oh, it's for love, it's for friendship. No, it's not. We weren't actually friends. I was the help. And my prices accorded that to me, for me, because when we came back together, energy wasn't the same. I am not the oppressed. I am not the submissive. And my energy shows that. Right? And then because I was very angry, I abused everybody. I was abusive. I was abusive boss, wife, mother. You have to own these things or you don't get beyond them. They stay shameful periods that you don't want anybody to know, and nobody's going to know. But it's you who are telling you and trying to do the mental gymnastics to make what is reality not true. So for those people that you abuse that you can apologize for, you do. And that's it. I am so deeply sorry, but only if you are, and only if changed behavior comes after it. If you're not going to be any different, then save your apology. I remember saying that, here's the thing. We often go, say you're sorry. And then people go, sorry. And then you don't mean it. It's like, no, of course they didn't mean it. That's why they didn't offer the apology. You needed to hear that. And that means absolutely nothing, because the words mean nothing. Show me the actions. If you are deeply sorry, then there are actions that will be different, because you now have the awareness. And so now with that awareness, your paradigm about that situation has shifted. I had to address to myself that, oh, indeed, I didn't grow up with listening, being listened to, being heard, being seen. I don't know that many of us did until here lately, and now take away the anger. No, I wasn't. Okay, but now I know, so I can make different choices. Right there, right? I was awful to my daughter. And when last I saw her here a couple months ago, I deeply apologized, which I have done before, but not to her face. Also with the addendum that, listen, please do not ruin your life because you were mad at me because I was a poor mother. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the outline. Now I'm still alive. Now I can make changed behavior, but changed behavior does not necessarily mean it's still going to be the behavior that that other person wants from you. These are the truths that become the things that stick in our head and make us feel like somehow we have failed. So those things no longer shame me. I don't make excuses. I've apologized and shown up differently. My parents are dead, and anyone else, I don't project. I acknowledge what I see and file it under the basic phenotype of person, and where does it seem that we genuinely align. So what I mean by that is, the long-winded way to say, people show you by their actions. And if you find that you keep hearing yourself not appreciating or liking this person's actions, then they are not for you. And the only thing you can change is you in the situation. So it is not a failure, it's simply a recognition that it's not for you. But I'll go one step further in the understanding is that most of us don't go into relationships with any kind of clarity, with any real understanding. It's all very shallow and aesthetic. Nobody told us about emotional intelligence, about the give and take, because as women, we weren't even allowed these particular freedoms and or expectations. We are living in a new world. You know, we knew these things and we didn't feel satisfied. Why do we not feel satisfied? Well, we want this, we expect this, but nobody told us to expect this. But this is what we expect. We expect to be able to be looked at more than a sex partner. And then you understand, oh, well, just as nobody told us, nobody told them. So nobody's got the outline. And now here we are. There are, who do we put the faults on? Nobody, because there's no fault to be had. So how do you show up differently in the world without anger, without envy, without jealousy? We had no structure or visions of what female empowerment looked like. Anything we ever were shown of what female empowerment looked like, it was created by a man. Think about it, okay? What we learned about in school was nothing compared to what we know now as reality. And as depicted on screen, you had your sassy bombshell, you had your, begoggled librarian type. These are all the visions, fantasies of how men see women, which are caricatures created by their masturbatory habits. You as a woman get to show up however you want to show up. And even other women have participated in it, and that's where the patriarchy steps in. That's the reality of it. How much time you want to spend being angry in each of those segments is up to you. I'm saying accept these things as the foundations and then realize still none of them are how you want to be. So now that you have stepped out of the paradigm shift, out of the awareness, how can you show up as your authentic self now? Who do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to share in the world? Because what does it look like after you realize you don't have to live in defiance of? Because that's still out there. You can live from here. You can simply accept the facts that your parents did the best that they could. And if it was a nothing shit job, then it was a nothing shit job. How much more now of your actual right here life will you devote being mad at people who are either dead to you, but you are still here. And that's the fucking gift. And that's the launch pad for the rest of these conversations. We are already there, or in that chaos spectrum of understanding and awareness and paradigm shifts. I had to write these down. Because it is a huge paradigm shift to question Who are you in this world? Who do you get to be? You've got all the degrees, you've got all the this and the that and the this, and you've had the relationships, and you're not finding it out there because it's not meant to be out there. It is for you to find the deeper love of yourself so that you can find the deeper love of this beautiful life. There's an acceptance that you have of yourself that you then extend. Because what I realized with my relationship with my ex, my recent ex, and really with all of them, is they were simply a reflection of me, because from July 2021, I abandoned what I felt, but there was I've never known women to really trust their gut and what that means. But I knew. Good sex. High Kundalini energy. And it releases that anger at him. He has been actually who he's been. Same for everybody. And it's not, and please don't, this is not an excuse. But your vibration affects those around you. You don't have to entertain every conversation. You don't have to be anything. You know, as I was growing up, I was teased for smiling. I was teased for basically being a joyful Black girl. My family had never seen it, and I didn't understand the epigenetics of what laughing means for Black Americans historically. And now that I know it, it still makes no difference, because I get to show up the way I want to show up. And so do you. When you break down each of those parts of who somebody told you you could be, and now who you get to be, who you're allowed to be, because the only one you answer to in your life is you. And you train people how to treat you in the way that you treat yourself. Because once you realize that catering to everything out here, yes, it is selfish. And it's just that we've been told that selfish is wrong. But no, indeed, we were told selfish is wrong by people who benefited from our abandonment of self. And we can see it all around us right now. So how do we navigate these waters? I am your guide. I am your mentor to these deeper conversations. Because when you realize that so much comes from an anger, from a protection of a bubble, it's got to be permeable. You cannot be like this. It is in receive, because we are meant to receive. We are abundant creatures. And finding out that middle ground of the chaos spectrum for you, that's where this work begins. We're not looking for perfection, because we are not perfect beings. And we also have to address certain things, like I may want a spick and span home. Am I going to find a partner who's spick and span? No, I'm not. So now I have to decide what my relationships looks like so that I can still show up joyful and happy. Because anything less is truly everything less. Because each time we take away from our light, that is less, that is less, that is less of us, that is less vitality, less glow, less closing of our throat chakra, less. Speak it, say it, because if it's a connection and understanding that aligns, then people get it. If they don't, then they're not ready to be at the same energetic vibration you are. And does it have to mean everything burns down? Sometimes it does. And what I've observed in my own life is it's not a burn down unless it's one of these marriages that will feel like a burn down, and long-term friendships, though, that won't feel. And actually the marriages don't feel like it either, because you've already understood that if you had not been trying, this life is not about struggle, even if struggle is what you are used to. This life is not about chaos, even if chaos is what you're used to. In order to get to the peace and to the calm, you show up the way you show up, not hiding anything. I thought to myself, oh, what a perfect way to do this video. You know, last week I burned myself with hot butter, and I kept delaying these videos, and I thought, oh no, y'all know I love a good metaphor. We must show up the way that we are, because the way that we are is what it is. And any more time that we spend not being us because we're waiting for perfect conditions is times away from our ability to live this beautiful life in every beautiful aspect it deserves of us. We were told that we should fear being alone, and so many of us who are now getting divorced or out of relationships or want to relocate, we're afraid. We lead by the fear. I had some woman ask me the other day, everything she was asking me about Pilates was led with, aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid? No, no, no. Because what am I afraid of? Something new? If I'm doing it right, everything is new. And each new thing allows your brain to grow. It allows your paradigm to shift. Each new thing you choose to do differently, you choose to learn, expands your world and expands how you show up and affect the lives of others. Each new thing allows you to realize that you could never make yourself negotiable again. And that by abandoning what you like, who you are, what you enjoy, it's not about you can't compromise. Why are you compromising? Are you compromising just for the dick? Are you just compromising for the coochie? Are you just compromising for the job? Are you just compromising for the lifestyle? Are you just compromising for the... Here's what I can tell you from here. Short term, yes, but the life is a long life. And what you notice about that person when you notice them, their rigidity, that's just who they are. If you feel like you're not rigid, then you can't be with them. Because even these short-term gains, you better have hey, if you're like, oh, that person seemed rigid to me, I'm going to be in this for 6 years. That's where many of you want to go wrong, because you're trying to make it a lifetime when you already knew it wasn't supposed to be more than 2-3 years.